What's up? Hello, people.
Is
How are
that
you?
Bill's gear?
I feel like it's been forever. You said what?
Is that Bill's gear?
It is Bills gear
How
just because
you
they play.
sleep through the Bills game and it was like a crazy good game? How was you sleep through the game?
I had a crazy morning last night and then early morning. So,
Say no more. Say no
I,
more.
yeah. So I got up at like 5 o'clock this morning. Um, so yeah, and I'm kind of tired. So
I
took a little
bet.
nap. Yeah, when I looked at the clock, I'm like, oh wow, it's 10 o'clock. I've been up for 5 hours.
Oh,
And now my
I
light
was wondering why
is.
you was texting me at 7 o'clock this morning or 6 o'clock or whatever it was. I was like, why are you awake?
Listen, I had a crazy morning, so I was awake and I was like, well, might as well be productive.
I guess
Let's
so. I woke
let's
up
see
at eight,
all
like
it's only 5 people I know that's up in the world right now. Let's see what they doing.
swear to God, I was like, I told you, well, it's only whatever o'clock. This is how do I already have a message?
Yeah, I was up early.
I guess
Nah,
so.
yeah. So I went to a baby shower yesterday.
I hate
Was
baby showers.
cool. You said what?
I hate baby showers. I always have.
You hate baby showers?
Swear to God, love
I
babies, hate baby showers.
I love any type of party that has cake, so I'm there. But
Right.
I'm always happy for people who, especially when it's their first kid.
That's exciting.
Um,
Well, you know, after the first one is supposed to be a sprinkle, not a shower.
Maybe, well, it's a lot of people out here sprinkling then, because a lot of people with multiple kids. But I'm always happy for people with a first kid. It's always a nice, exciting time.
It is.
I
It's
never
very
went into
cutesy.
the baby games, but whatever. No. But it was a good time. Uh,
Good. That's fun.
uh, yeah, it was fun. It was fun, had a great time.
Works for me.
Yeah. Feel like it's been forever since we've been here
Swear to
on the
God, I
show
had
with
some technical
company.
difficulties. I had a month of hurricane uh
I know we
survival.
happy to see you. Tell us about it.
I'm happy to see me.
Yes, yes. We're thrilled.
It was
But tell us
wild.
about it.
It was wild. I am a native New Yorker, was in upstate New York my whole life, where the closest we get to a natural disaster is a really bad snowstorm. And typically, we don't even get the worst snowstorms. Buffalo gets those. So it barely snows in Rochester anymore. It just gets real cold. So moving down south has been a whole different experience of like getting used to. I mean, first of all, getting used to weather because like we don't have fall, which sucks because that's my favorite holiday. I miss fall a lot. I miss fall. I miss fall clothes. I miss hoodies. The only reason I have this hoodie on is because I'm inside in the air conditioning. Um, we don't have winter. We kind of have fall in like late November, December. However, every January 1st, I am walking on the beach by the ocean on January 1st in like a hoodie and some leggings and barefoot and not cold. So it's worth it on the 1st of January. But yeah, it's wild. But the hurricane thing, natural disasters are like a whole different thing. And I live in the Tampa Bay area and where we're tucked in the Gulf is traditionally does not get direct hurricanes. So, um, I don't know. Like up in we're just like in this little cut part of the bay that doesn't get of the state on the west side, which is in the Gulf. That doesn't the west side, yeah, west side. That doesn't really get direct hits from hurricanes. We get like the rain and stuff that like goes past us. We don't typically like get them like coming at you. And this was the first time in 100 years one came directly at us, and even the Floridians were nervous. And like down here, when a hurricane comes, they're like, let's go to Publix and get snacks and like the liquor store and get drinks. Like that's hurricane preparedness in the Tampa Bay area. But this time they were nervous. I was like, shit, maybe we should be nervous. Um, and so we were nervous, and it was worth it. It was scary. It was a scary experience to go through. You're kind of at some point the lights went out, and so you're kind of just sitting there like waiting to make sure the roof doesn't blow off. The sound is something that is hard to explain. It kind of feels like your house is sitting on train tracks with like trains or subway trains or something like directly outside either side of your house. So like it sounds like the trains are like doing this past your house because it's so incredible. It's like this roar. It's just loud and it's scary. Like if there's something you've never experienced before, it is scary. So the worst things always come down here from surge, from water surge. Like I've learned all this stuff in the last year from living down here. Like you get a whole new education. Um, water surge. So a lot of times all the water gets sucked out of the Gulf and like up into the hurricane. But then like when the wind passes, it's gotta go somewhere. So it comes like whoosh, like baby tsunami style back to where it came from. So the places that are closest to the like beach, low-lying areas get hit the hardest. Um, I live 5, 6 minutes from the Gulf, from the ocean. But it's all dependent on like what elevation level you're at. So in comparison, I think I looked it up, and Rochester is at like 550 feet elevation or something above sea level. Above sea level. Now, for me living in New York, I would assume we live right on, it was right on Lake Ontario. So I would assume we were like relatively close to sea level. Not so. Rochester is at 550 feet. In comparison, down here it's like 5 feet above sea level. So that's not a lot. Which means if the water surge is higher than that 5 feet, like you are getting carried away. But again, then you have leading up to it where everybody in America is texting your phone, like, are you leaving? Are you evacuating? Are you going? And you're like, nah, because what they do have down here is a really sophisticated evacuation system that tells who needs to go, that they need to go. Now, if you stay in the place where the evacuation zone tells you need to go, there's a distinct possibility that you may die if you don't leave. But we are like, I think the highest level of elevation down here so we're like level E or something. And usually A and B are the only ones that get evacuated. So we didn't leave because you gotta, point being, it was a whole new experience, and it's a lot that I've had to learn. And part of me wanting to finally live in a different place is to understand how other people live and the different challenges they face. And it's really different challenges down here than the rest of the country. People still are living in poverty. People are still, working 2 and 3 jobs. People have families and kids and responsibilities and no PTO and, no insurance on their houses because they get hurricanes down here so often. Insurance companies won't carry insurance for them. So a lot of the people you see that you're like, oh, their houses blew away, but they can just claim it on their insurance and get the money back. No, they can't. Because the majority of people down here don't have homeowners or renters insurance because it's so expensive because they know so many people are going to need it with the storms. So that means if your house gets destroyed, like that might be all she wrote. Like there may be nothing but FEMA, but that is another very complicated process to get approved for FEMA and what FEMA will approve and what they won't and whatever. Even if you have homeowners or renters insurance, if it's hurricane insurance, that's like extra. And even with the hurricane insurance actually covers rain and wind, but it doesn't cover the water because that's technically flooding. It's not hurricane. So like that stuff might not get covered. So it's a lot. And although the hurricane was scary, we made it through. We didn't have a ton of water. We had water coming out of the doors just because the rain was so heavy, which was scary in itself because you never knew like when all of a sudden they were just gonna really start coming in your house. But the worst part was afterwards because we didn't have power for 5 days and we didn't have internet for 10 days. Which this day and age everything runs off of internet, so or cable. either or, and both of those were out for a really long time. So, we couldn't use the TV, we couldn't use the radio, we couldn't use the internet, we couldn't use the computer, because we didn't have internet, which is tough for me because 99% of my job the work that I do is on a computer in some form or fashion. So you didn't know what was going on because you couldn't watch the TV. You didn't have electricity, so you couldn't, plug in a radio. We have Verizon. 3 out of 4 of us in our house have Verizon. Verizon didn't set up the towers right. So, hey, Winston, didn't set up the towers right. So our phones were on SOS for like 4 days. So one of my friends who ironically just popped in this live, like drove to my house to find me to make sure I was alive because nobody had heard from me after the storm because we didn't even have phone. Not only didn't we have phone to charge it, we didn't have phone to even like get calls, send calls. So, in my inexperience with living down here and really having a high impact storm come at us, I had no idea that like the hurricane itself was only the half of it. It was like after the hurricane that was the scariest part because it's like living in an apocalypse. Trees down everywhere. Nobody has power. Nobody could find gas. You couldn't keep food for more than a couple of days. You had to buy new food every day. If you're buying hot food for multiple people in a household, that's expensive. You buy fresh food, that only lasts on ice for a couple of days, and then you have to restock again. You're throwing away everything in your cabinet. So, like, it's an important thing for me to understand how people live and understand culture, and whether that's, race, whether that's background, whether that's region. And this was sort of my lesson about how like culture is so much different regionally too. Because in New York, I didn't have any idea about what people go through, living through hurricanes and tornadoes and whatever. So it was important. I felt like it gave me a new, different approach to my advocacy and understanding of, and I've been down here for a little while, but it still gave me a very different understanding of what people go through. It's very different depending on where they live. So it was no fun. Do not recommend. Would not suggest anybody give it a shot. But I am appreciative of us, first of all, making it through without too much damage, but also just being able to understand how people's lives can be affected so differently depending on where they live. And like, what is homelessness and unhoused people. That's an extremely difficult way to live, but like, what do they do when there's a natural disaster coming? You're living in poverty. Everybody's like, oh, evacuate. Who has the money to spontaneously take their whole family on a vacation without any without any planning? Like, it's Tuesday. Let's go on vacation on Thursday because the weatherman just said that a hurricane is barely in this direction. Not to mention the fact that we had 2 hurricanes back to back. One came straight at us, but the first one came like near us. It like went past us. So there were half the city was already living in hurricanes from the damage from the first one. So there was nowhere to go. There wasn't hurricanes if you wanted to go to hurricanes or to go to a hotel. So it was just a lot. And I learned a lot. I learned a lot about myself. One of which is I would not make it on Survivor or any such wilderness show. Because, baby, I am not built like that. I make it in jail before I would make it in anybody's wilderness camping experience. That is not something that I will ever do for fun because it was not fun when I was doing it for necessity. So that is the moral. That is my, that is my 5-minute assessment of hurricane survival. Don't do it. But it's rough now because I'm back to my grind and I'm working again and whatever. But it's about to be Thanksgiving and then it's about to be Christmas, and I'm like, damn, I'm still trying to catch up on rent, no less. Thinking about buying gifts for kids and whatever. So, and trying to make sure we got food in the house after we just threw away $500 worth of things out the refrigerator and had to replenish and rebuy stuff. And there's still I had to buy some stuff to help fix we lost all of our fences. We had trees in our yard, not our trees, somebody's trees that blew from across town somewhere and landed in our yard. Like, we had to buy stuff to, deal with that. We had to buy, battery operated radios and all types of things. So like it's I probably spent $1,000 on stuff before and after, and on top of not making money during. So Merry effing Christmas. But we're also blessed to be alive and not have lost more because people didn't. Now I can't hear you again.
Oh, I had to mute. My dog was being crazy. But see, now you're thinking about them old AARP commercials where they send you that free radio, huh?
Look here, I was like, damn. I was like, I knew I should have ordered that thing on Amazon when I seen it. But we got a whole cabinet now. Won't happen again. I got the whole arsenal ready for next time because you just never know when it's gonna be next time. But like I said, people are like, why are you leaving? Are you leaving? And they're scared and they're making you more scared. And so we're all down here like, leave us the hell alone. Like either send money or shut up because we already stressed out down here. You are not helping.
Right.
So if you're not about to send us a check to get out of here or charter a helicopter to land in the front yard because the airports are closed, honey, we're not going nowhere. So if you're not about to facilitate us leaving up out of here, stop telling us we're stupid for staying because whoa.
Right. I don't think people realize, how hard it is to get up out of a situation like that.
I sure didn't. I can't even lie to you. I didn't.
But yeah, we glad you safe. I recommend everybody call AARP and get y'all free radio. Batteries are not included, but good to have. No, but I seen a lot of people doing a lot of different like safety tips and stuff for people. I seen this guy on TikTok telling people how to use their iPhones in like satellite mode, just in case they didn't have any reception, ways to like store food uh when you don't have any power,
It's like the apocalypse. You should have seen these people out here waiting for gas after it was over because people used a lot of gas to get out of town, first of all. So that was another reason why I was scared to evacuate because there was so many people on the highway. I'm like, you couldn't get any gas between here and Georgia, which is the next state up. And so if I'm on the road and you can't get no gas, I'm not about to be stuck on the side of the road trying to survive no hurricane. So I saw Twister. Like I'm all set. And then after it was over, um, there was no gas down here. Plus, people who had generators needed gas to run their generators. So then you really couldn't find gas. So it would be people like Wawa was one of the few gas stations that was like set and ready to go. Like they were prepared and they must have had fuel trucks like at the state line ready to ship stuff down. So people would literally, now mind you, there's a Wawa on every corner here. So there's a lot of them, but people would literally just park their cars in lines for miles outside of a Wawa thinking they might get delivered gas that day. So they would just sit there and wait so they would be in the line just in case it showed up, not knowing if it would or what. It was wild. It was wild. It was the end of times. That's what it felt like. The end of flipping times.
Listen, I don't know. I ain't never been in no. I've seen a hurricane before, and it's crazy because I was traveling in Florida when I seen one, but it was like I was driving this way, and like I could see it in the field like that way, and I'm like, it was wild because the rain was coming down so hard that I couldn't even see the cars in front of me except when they hit the brakes.
Yep. And
So
I used to do a lot of driving in New York, like throughway driving like that. Like every once in a while, you get one of those turns that has whiteouts, so like you can't see the car until they brake to see the car in front of you or whatever. But
Armani said, "Oh, that iPhone thing, they had to set it up before time. Oh, they didn't have that information. That's true, but now they got it. So they better say that.
And unless you were on Verizon, in which case they just left you to die because you still had to like have some type of connectivity, even if your signal was out. Like them Verizon towers were down, baby. It was like, oh well. Can you hear me now? Absolutely flipping not. It was so funny because their thing is, can you hear me now? And one of the like mayors or governor, no, it couldn't have been the governor, one of the mayors of one of the cities, like went on there and was like, because I guess this happened at like Hurricane Ian or another one of like the great big ones that happened years ago. And he was like, they didn't do their staging. Verizon didn't do their staging just like they didn't do the last time. So half of our emergency workers are using Verizon towers and can't rescue people because y'all didn't do your job. So Verizon, we can't hear you now. It was like, I'm like, this was his like public statement on the news. And I was like, oh, Jesus. Oh, God. Okay. Well, all right.
Gotta let them know. Gotta do Verizon. You got one job.
Okay. Y'all did not do it. Okay.
We need y'all to do it.
Swear to God.
But yes, Wawa is the shit.
Wawa
we don't have Wawa up here,
we
so every time I'm like
don't.
down south, I definitely visit a Wawa and a Waffle House for sure.
Yes, Wawa, Waffle House,
Two places I definitely always visit: a Wawa and a Waffle
and
House.
it used to be Chick-fil-A because we didn't used to have Chick-fil-A up there either.
I don't deal
So
with
I
them.
went to college in Philly. I went to college in Philly, and so the year that I had went to school, they had I guess every college always accepts more people than they can actually house because there's a certain percentage of kids that don't show up every year for whatever reason. So when I not the W's for win. So the year I went, I guess everybody showed up. So they didn't have housing for like 300 of us. So they just like we were there and they didn't know what to do with us. So they ended up like taking over a Best Western in like the city of Philly and made that our dorm for the first semester of school. So first semester we lived there, and then there was a second hotel across the street that was like shut down that they like renovated during the first semester, and then we moved into the hotel across the street for second semester. So we were off campus, so none of our meal plans worked, because they weren't set up to be in the city. They were just set up for on campus for like the cafeterias or whatever that were inside the dorms and whatever. So they we had to like scour for food because we lived like probably 3 miles off campus, like in the center of Philadelphia, and Temple is in North Philly. So we were in Center City. And so the only things were biased that were a restaurant called Chicken Tom's, and all they sold was like expensive ass chicken fingers and Wawa. So I survived off of meatball subs and red Wawa juice for like several months. Like that's all I ate. So I've been talking about Wawa since I went to college when I was 17. So I've been talking about Wawa since I was 17. So I talked about Wawa so much that my kids knew what Wawa was. So now like every time we go to Wawa, it's like this important experience. And they're like, Mom, you were right. All these years we've been talking about Wawa and you were right. I was like, I know. Wawa's the best thing that ever happened.
Yeah, Wawa.
Yay, Wawa.
So it's been a couple weeks because of, well, you didn't have any power and, you know, so we finally getting back. So what's going on in the world? Let's see.
I would say your turn. That's a lot of what was going on in my world. So what's going on in your world?
What did I do in my world? Oh, speaking of like not doing camping, I did do camping. That was fun. Well,
was it?
I did like glamping.
Like
wasn't
how,
real camping.
like how glamping, tell me how rural we're talking about in camping.
Okay, so super rural because it was like in the middle of Atlanta. Fun fact. Well, not Atlanta. It was like the middle of Georgia.
Okay.
Often like the outskirts of Georgia.
I'm terrified to be in the outskirts of Atlanta. The rest of the state of Georgia is a scary place. It's like Arkansas.
And then it was like, so I had took a Uber to go visit my brother. This is how rural it was. When I was taking my Uber back, you had to drive like up this like dirt path road, and like the Uber driver was like, "Yeah, my car not gonna make it up here." And I'm like,
so you had to hike to the place? How far was the walk?
Well, luckily it was just me, and I was just coming from like Pride in Atlanta, so it wasn't that far. It was just like,
well, shit, I'm glad you made it. God only knows what you did.
I mean, I could see the house from where he dropped me off at. So it wasn't like I was
Did you
going too
call
far.
somebody and tell them to meet you halfway like the old days?
Nah, I could see the
Meet you
campfire.
halfway there.
I could see the campfire. I could see all that. But sir, you can't get 5 stars. You ain't even take me all the way to my destination. But
Beginning of a Netflix movie.
it was cool though. It wasn't. That's how rural it was. But I say glamping because like there was a hot tub on the back porch.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it wasn't like I wasn't pitching nobody's tent, sleeping on nobody's ground. But it was nice,
You weren't so much camping, you were in a cabin.
Yeah,
Cabining.
cabining.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't really sleep. I don't really think I should have to pay to sleep on the ground. So like camping is probably not for me.
Yeah, no.
And
No.
I'm old. I got like old bones. I just look young because I drink a lot of water.
No. Can I tell you I
And
have white hair now? I found gray hair earlier today. It's right there. I've
do
never
you
had
not
gray hair
do you not
ever.
see this?
You know how some people go like prematurely gray when they're like 29? I am not that person. I have never had a gray hair, but I damn sure got one right there. And that bitch sticks straight out like that, so you can't miss it. I'm like, really? Really?
I think that's the same. I got some gray beard hairs.
It's not okay.
And they all just stick straight
Okay.
out. And it's always people like, oh, you got a string on you. Like, stop touching me.
No, I don't.
No, I
Leave
don't.
me alone.
But
Mind your
yeah,
business, sir.
my best
Got
friend
really
though,
in dark skin.
the hurricane gave it to you.
Probably did. It probably did. That shit took years off my life.
But yeah, I did a little a little glamping. That was cool. What else did I do? October was a cool month. Halloween was dope.
Did you do fun stuff for Halloween?
I am too old to do fun stuff for Halloween.
You
I
killing me
think.
with this. I'm too old.
Um,
Everything is I'm
but
too old.
but because I work with kids, I did get to do a little bit of fun stuff for Halloween. I run a youth drop-in program, so I got to do fun Halloween stuff every week up into throwing a costume party the day before Halloween for the kids and families. So that was fun. They had some dope costumes. Love to see kids having fun. We did a little karaoke, some pumpkin painting, you know. So good time, good time. Like to see kids. I think my youngest kid was like 7 or 8.
Did you share this
Yeah,
slide before we keep talking?
I did. I
Okay.
did.
Just
I
checking.
was. We didn't do a lot of promotions this week just because I think it was a lot going on.
Yo,
But
it was a lot going on.
the replays, we always get really good replays.
We do.
I,
No, people are joining. I was just asking because I'm not sure I did.
I did. See, I was on you today.
Okay.
But yeah, I saw some dope Halloween costumes. I think I saw some great celebrity Halloween costumes this year.
Which ones did you like?
So I liked Ice Spice.
Oh, she was. I wrote her down. What did she do? She did.
She did Fifth Element.
Lilo.
From the
Yo, can I tell you? I think
Fifth.
Fifth Element is probably the most replayed movie on like cable that exists on planet Earth. And every time I turn on the TV, I feel like I see it in the guy, and I'm like, why are they still showing this movie? Not that I have a problem with it, because I love that movie.
Chris Tucker is so good in that movie.
Oh my God, Chris Tucker is hilarious in that movie. The whole movie is great, but it amazes me that they still play it so often because it is so old. And I don't even feel like it was popular when it came out. I feel like it's like a cult classic that people just started watching when it came on free on TV.
I don't know. I like the Fifth. I don't know. I like a lot of. I'm not really big on movies right now. I'm more big on like. I don't know. I just never find too many. Like I watch a good documentary.
Oh yeah,
but like
I pretty much only watch those.
But a lot of the movies that come out, I feel like they are like replays, remakes of the same movies that I already done seen. And then if I could figure out what's about to happen before the movie is
They
over,
were
I'm
over it.
watching it. Yeah, I don't even want to watch it. I'm like, oh, I know who the killer is. You know what? I'm good.
Lotto
But
was cute
oh,
as Ice
oh,
as
Jessica Rabbit.
Jessica Rabbit too. Halle Chloe, one of the Bailey sisters did it too, but it wasn't as good as Lotto's because Lotto, she can fill out a Jessica Rabbit a little bit more. Big
She got
Mama was was filling out Jessica.
she's pulled out all the stops this year,
She
huh?
did. She ain't
Uh,
even had to wear no padding. Big Mama can do that all on her lonesome.
she did a good job.
I was
Who else did I?
underwhelmed by Beyonce this year.
Oh, Prince.
Yeah, I was underwhelmed. She usually
Um,
goes hard. I was like,
I
you know,
enjoyed the Prince costume. I will say,
eh,
it was kind of cool. It was, you know,
eh,
she probably didn't go over the top because she got kids to dress this year too.
I guess if they even did, where they going trick or treating?
Babe,
Where you take
around
them? Where you
from
taking
the
the blue
from,
ID trick or treating?
this is what you do. I'm telling you, the celebrities they probably just give the staff candy and let them open up each door in the
On the
house.
ground.
like,
You just circle the house and go to the ground.
like y'all all dressed up. You know, you go to the
Go
bathroom,
see
you
nanny
go to
number
the
one
cellar.
around that corner.
Like just let the kids run around the house and knock on our doors. It's 100 of them.
Because you can't take blue ivy outside. Shit, the whole paparazzi, all the TMZ will be following you down the street.
Yeah, yeah. Who else did I see? Oh, my favorite though had to be Janelle Monae.
Oh, yeah, that was crazy.
Yeah,
Talk
Janelle
about
Monae,
going all out.
and that's one of my favorite movies too. So I'm like, okay, Elliot from ET, yes,
You didn't even know it was her.
I knew it was her. I could spot Janelle Monae anywhere.
Lupita was Storm.
I saw that. I definitely like Lupita as Storm too. Yes,
See, oh my God, did you
definitely.
see Sierra as Glorilla?
I didn't. I missed that one.
Oh my
I have
God,
to look that one
it
up.
was cute because she made a video where she like acted out one of her a scene from one of her recent interviews that was going viral and like part of one of her like performances, like one of her songs. She like performed one of her songs. It was cute because it was like exactly like in the interview, a dude asked her a question. You know how she has that fake Baltimore accent? She said something and the dude laughs because like I was just about to try to do it, but I can't do it. Like that he laughs because of how she pronounced, I think, beautiful maybe. And like she was perfectly in sync with like the voiceover of Glorilla. And I was like, well, okay, Sierra, she practiced that.
Yeah, I like I didn't really too much go. I went out on Halloween just to like have a drink, but I didn't like go out like to any clubs or anything. I did meet three Mormon sister wives. Those were really good costumes. They even had their little Book of Mormon, and
Bye.
they all had their hair like the big hair.
Shut
Yeah.
up. Sister Wives is my favorite show. I would have been very excited. It is. I don't know. It's a thing. I
Sister
don't know.
Wives, I'm just gonna say, as someone who's practiced polygamy, Sister Wives is such a problematic show.
But they
Such a
all left
problematic
this
show.
season.
It's
They all left this season.
problematic.
They
I'm
all
not
left
watching
this
it.
season.
They
They
all
all
need to
left
leave.
after
It's not
15
even
years.
real
I've been
polygamy.
watching them for 15 years waiting for somebody to leave. They finally all left this season. It was
It's
like the
not
culmination of my life.
it's not real polygamy. It's like a cult. That
Well,
is
well, first of all, polyamory and polygamy are two very different things.
it is. But
And they tip more towards the polygamy end than the polyamory end. Those are very different scenarios. That's like religion based polygamy opposed to a decision
and they
to
are
embrace.
super problematic.
They're not
They,
all super
you know what?
problematic.
No, well, not all of them, but the ones that most of the people that they put on TV, they pick like the most.
Well, they picked those people because the one wife, who is the one that eventually left. See, I could give you the whole breakdown of this. I'm telling you, 15 years of watching, 15 seasons, not 15 years, but 15 seasons of watching this show. The reason why they got chosen is because one of the wives is like, whatever their religion is, whatever it is, she's like royalty of that family, like the original like founding fathers or whatever of that religion. She's one of their like grandkids or whatever. So that's why they got chosen, because they were like the whoop-de-doos of the religion. So, but they all left Cody this season, all but one.
I don't think I could. This is probably
My
as close
favorite
to like
show.
reality TV as I could get.
My favorite show. I don't watch a lot of reality TV, but I watch that reality TV faithfully. It's on at 10 o'clock tonight.
No,
I'll
no,
listen right on in
no. I
and pick
mean,
up
as
with it.
far as like being on reality TV, this is probably like,
This.
yeah, this is as close
That's
to like.
you need a show. I
This
would
is
love to follow your ass around with a camera, because the stories you be texting me at 3 o'clock in the morning need to be televised.
no, we are not. We don't want to televise those.
I'm like, look, I got
No, I'm gonna do the
my
camera
documentary
thing though.
camera
I'm
right
gonna
over
do.
here. I'm gonna fly
I'm,
out and just follow you for a week,
I'm,
1 week, so I can get.
I'm, I'm gonna do the hidden camera thing though.
I swear to
Telling
God,
you,
I'm about to. That's what I'm gonna buy you for Christmas. I'm gonna get you one of those hats with the camera and the thing.
yeah, I'm gonna wear that joint too.
It's
Watch, it's gonna be like
gonna be the highlight of my fucking life,
hidden
watching that
video.
video back. Promise you.
I don't even know if I'll be able to play everything.
I'm gonna strap a door camera to a necklace and you can wear it around.
Yeah, no. I mean, I could do like travel. Like when I travel, I could do like that.
Oh
But
no.
like, if I was following me around in my everyday life
I'm
every single day,
telling you, it's happening.
yeah, I can't do that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even think
Happening.
nobody will watch that. So
I will watch it. I bet you they would.
yeah, I'm really not that interested. I'm
Okay, please don't start this. Change the subject, because now you gotta go into the I'm not a public person there. I'm not doing this with you today. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it with you today. We're not doing it. I'm not doing
no.
it. Mm-mm.
Okay, wait. Okay, so the last costume I saw, um, that I thought was pretty dope was this dude walked into the bar, and it sounded like a bad joke, but no,
This is real.
this dude
It's
walked into the
real.
bar and he had like this ghost costume on, but it had like some rainbow stuff on it, and I was like, what is he? I gotta go ask, because I'm nosy, especially when I'm drinking. I got a lot of questions. I ask a lot of questions. I wanted to know. So I'm like, okay, what are you? And he's like, I'm the ghost of pride. And I took another look at his costume, and he had this sign on it around his neck that said, I didn't vote. So it was more like a
It's
political
a
statement kind of costume.
commentary. Yes, go
So I was
him.
like,
The
okay,
sad thing is,
that's
half
it.
the people who saw it wouldn't even get it. That's why they also didn't vote.
Right, right, right. So I was like, oh, okay, that's dope. I kind of like your costume. He said, yeah. It's like that was dope. Yeah.
He would have had somebody walk behind him and give people a 30-minute explanation as to what it meant for people to actually understand. You
I
know,
mean,
people don't
when
understand
he said to
sarcasm.
vote the pride, and I seen that I didn't vote, I was like, oh, okay,
Well,
I
I
get it.
expect you to understand, but I'm talking about the typical average individual that walks past and be like, oh, I don't understand.
But that was probably my favorite
That
costume.
was very dope.
Because let me go into my spiel about how everyone should be registered to vote by now, and they should know where their polling place is. And early voting has already started. And on Tuesday, you should be at the polls by Tuesday or before so that you can vote. I'm sure they stay open till 9 p.m. everywhere
Yeah, I
in
want to, when
America.
we get into voting stuff, I want to talk about that, because I actually had somebody reach out to me who wanted, like, who really just didn't understand what they needed to do. And so I want to talk about that a little bit, because I think we sometimes don't realize people really don't know what they're supposed to do, and that's why people stay home. So once we get into like really talking about voting, we're gonna talk about that. Like, and I'll talk about from an up north or from a down south perspective. You could talk about from an up north perspective, because typically most northern states are similar and most southern states are similar. So we're gonna talk about that when we get there, because people really don't know. They don't know how, they don't know why, they don't. So we actually gonna I feel like every one of these we've brought up voting, but I really think we're gonna like get into it today, because now it is D-Day. It is the time, it is the place, it is here and the now. Like, we gotta talk about it.
I mean, it's no time like the present.
Amen. I
So
would say
yeah,
my last thing on Halloween, I would say I love seeing all the pictures of little black girls with Sha'Carri Richardson costumes and Angel Reese costumes on. Like, oh, that did it for me. Like, that was so beautiful. It just shows why it's so incredibly important to have representation in the media. That just, I loved it. Loved it, loved it, loved it. And they were so proud. And like, oh, I just, my heart. My heart, my heart, my heart.
okay. Yeah, that was definitely dope to see. I love one thing I will say though that I wish people would stop doing. Stop dressing your kids up as people that they don't know who they is.
Oh, can we talk
That's
about
my
that?
only thing.
Did you
That's my
see
only
the
thing.
meme that was going around of the little girl in the Martin and Gina costume with the girl is a
With
little
the
girl with
headboard, with the yeah, I seen that. I was like, yeah. So
the
can we?
sadder thing is, if you go through the comments, obviously when somebody shares it, all you see is their comments. But if you click back to the original post comments, it took me so long to get to the point to somebody was saying, why the would you put your child in a costume like that? Do you remember how she got her head in that headboard? And you obviously she didn't know what that meant to ask for it. So clearly that was something you thought was cute. So why didn't you stick your big ass head through a headboard if that was what you wanted to do? Because completely inappropriate for a child. But yeah.
Yeah, so that's my only thing about these kids' costumes. I'm sure that little girl probably wanted to be Princess Tiana or somebody. She didn't want to be. She probably don't even know who Gina from Martin is.
Probably not.
Like, stop dressing these kids up in these adult costumes. Like, get your ass in a costume.
That's what I'm
Like,
saying. Stick your head through that headboard if you think that's funny. Like, I just don't know what people
but yeah,
be thinking. Like, what do
yeah,
you?
that was my only thing about Halloween. Like, I seen a lot of kids in adult costumes.
I didn't see many this year, but I also didn't go outside. So
Well, I mean, on the internet. I purposely didn't go outside. I dealt with the kids inside my center, and after that party, I was exhausted. So I was like, oh yeah, Halloween is over for me.
yeah, people kept asking what I was doing. I was like, the 31st, I'm doing Blackout Magazine. That's what I'm doing. I don't give a damn what holiday falls on the 31st, any 30th or 31st of any month. You can catch me sitting right behind this computer screen, talking out Blackout Magazine. And that is what I did. That's how I spent my 30th, 31st, and 1st this year.
Yeah, yes. So, do you want to tell them about the announcement? Do you want to go into voting first, or you want to tell them
Let's do
about the
the
announcement?
announcement first, because I feel like voting could be a long conversation.
Okay.
And I want it to be the thing that people leave with. So please carry this with you when you leave this here live. Yes. So I am so incredibly proud about the announcement that we got to make when this magazine came out on the 1st. So I don't know why I keep messing with my hair. I think it's because I just flat ironed it, so I keep messing with it. So every year for as long as I can remember, I have plans coordinated, whatever, a TDOR. If you're not familiar with TDOR on this channel, I don't know how you cannot be familiar with TDOR, but in case you are not familiar with TDOR, it's Trans Day of Remembrance, and it's the year that now in its 25th year, which is crazy, that we come together as a community to remember the trans folks, non-binary, gender expansive, gender non-conforming folks that have been murdered. So every year all over the country, you will see TDOR events. Sometimes they are like more like church services where people light candles and have, like solemn words of remembrance. Sometimes people want to do something like we did a prom one year because we wanted to remember joy in the face of something so incredibly sad. But no matter what you do, it's hard. It's a hard event because you're standing in this room of community. It's basically a funeral for all intents and purposes. A lot of these people, unfortunately, well, all of the people that get celebrated on TDOR for the most part were killed under violent circumstances. Um, but I think for me, it's the hardest because you're in this room and you have to have this thought about like who didn't make it to this room this year that was here last year, who might not make it to this room next year, who's here this year, because it's just such an active threat everywhere all the time. I don't think people who don't do this work and aren't part of the community understand how disproportionately often trans folks, especially Black and brown trans folks, especially Black trans women, are murdered in this country. Like, it's like less than 1% of the population, and this huge percentage of people compared to the rest of the population that get killed. So, unfortunately, the media and the law enforcement office misgenders these people. They don't report the stories accurately, so people don't even find out. They may get reported on their dead name, so like people don't even know that this is a person they have known for years because they don't recognize the name that gets publicized. So a lot of times these cases don't get solved, they don't get investigated, and they happen over and over again. So for me, when I coordinate these events, I try as hard as I can to make sure that the voices of the trans people involved in planning the event with me are the voices that get pushed forward, because that's how it should be. Those events are not about me and they're not for me. I just do what I can do to make sure that they happen. And sometimes have the connections to be able to like pull resources to make sure that they happen. And so a lot of doing that work, the work that I do is finding people's names and their pictures and their stories. So all year long, I really try to pay close attention to when different names come out so we can make sure that they're recorded. We can make sure that we don't forget them when November comes. So I promise you, those faces follow me all year long. Like you could show me a picture and I could tell you who they were and where they lived and what happened to them and how old they were and what their dog's name was and whatever, because I feel like I carry them with me everywhere I go. And it's part of what pushes me to do the work that I do. So after 10 some odd years of planning those events, this year I wanted to do something different. I wanted to do something more than just remember folks in the way that we always remember folks. I wanted to somehow contribute to a way that we could maybe save some lives so that list would be shorter next year, because we had went through a period of time through 2020 and 21 where the numbers were getting higher. Every year was a record breaking year. More people, more people, more people. And for a couple of years, those numbers started going down. And as I was paying attention to them early this year, the numbers were going up very, very quickly. And I'm like, we are going in the wrong direction. Something is happening, and this is getting worse again. It was always bad because one is too many, but it was getting worse again, and the numbers were getting higher faster. And I was like, there's got to be somebody who can analyze this data for me and see if it looks like we're trending towards going up again. So I started collecting the data and talking to people. I had worked on a project with this gentleman a few years ago where they were analyzing data of people that had died from gun violence in Rochester, New York, which is my hometown. And they did all kinds of amazing stuff with the data. And so I contacted him and I was like, yo, if I get you these numbers and this information, like, what can we do? What can we create? Like, what can we make to help bring attention to this issue? Because people don't realize, like I said, outside of the community, I don't think people even know. So they are working with this technology called GIS. It's geographic something information, and basically is maps. So what they can do is if you give them all this data, they can do some sort of scientific calculations to take this data and chart it into like 3D images, map images. So I was able to collect the data from HRC, because HRC collects all of it from media reports from all over the country. HRC doesn't record all of them. They have certain like specifics that qualify you to make it to their list. So I went and pulled media reports from people that didn't make it to the list that are still violent deaths and or unexplained deaths that in my mind should still also be included. So I got them all this data and they put it in their system and were able to cook out these maps that literally you can go in, click on a point on the map, and it represents a person. Their profile pops up, you see their name, their age, what happened to them, if someone was arrested for what happened to them, if there was an explanation, and it also will link to a media report about them or the HIC profile about them. And that in itself was kind of dope, right? So you can like, there's one thing seeing all these names and places listed on a piece of paper, or on a website that you can click on, you know, like a news story. It's something different to be able to see all of these points on this map in front of you, like it's striking. All of these people, all of these places on this map, is the visual of it is profound and it's shocking. And I think that you need to have that shock factor for people to take it seriously. Because unfortunately, we live in a world where if stuff isn't happening to you, you don't always pay attention. That's just the facts. And so, for one, now all of these people and their stories live on these maps, which is important because I am very big on making sure people aren't forgotten. When people pass away, um, I believe that their memories and their names should live on, and the people they love and the impact that they've made. And so, this is one way to sort of help those names live on indefinitely. But beyond that, this is a free resource that lives on our website. It's blackout.com, spelled the funny way, BLAQUEOUT.com.TRAAII, which is try. We pronounce try, excuse me. And you can go in there if you work for an organization, if you run an organization, if you are an activist, if you are just an individual. You can go in for free on this site and you can use this information and the visuals that it provides, layer it with different factors, people's ages, whether they were housed or unhoused, what region they live in, what their gender identity is, and put different factors so it will show where the majority of these people lived, where how the majority of these people died, whatever. And so if you're going in to lobby on your lobby days in your state capital, if you are talking to politicians in your area asking for more resources, if you're an organization trying to get funding and this is the kind of work you do or the populations of people you work with, you can pull these pictures up, you can print them out, you can save them, you can email them, you can project them on a wall in the middle of the state capitol that shows like, this is our area, this is where we are right now. Look at all of these dots that are circled around us where we live that show how many people are being affected by these things. And so it's my hope that this will be a resource to people all over the country to be able to get more funding, to get more attention, to get more support, get people to take it seriously. I hope that this saved lives. And it also, in like, if you're familiar with like the Green Book, back in the day, they had a Green Book. It was called the Green Book for sundown towns, where if you were Black, you should not be caught there after dark because anything could happen to you. You were at risk. And so I'm also hoping that people can look at these maps and see the areas where there's also one of the layers that you can put over that's like density. So you can see like the pockets where there are lots and lots of people, like Houston, Jacksonville. Ironically, Pennsylvania has a lot of high density areas where you know that there very well may be either sentiments that tell people that it's okay to harm trans folks, or could even be predators out there that are killing multiple people and they just don't know. And on the high end, it is my hope that even law enforcement agencies start using this tool to be able to see quicker that there's patterns there. Um, Law enforcement agencies are not great with communicating with each other. And although they have the information of deaths even in their area, they do not break them down by gender identity or if someone is trans or if someone is non-binary or whatever. They don't have that information readily available to them. So I'm hoping they go in and start looking at this and saying, okay, well, if you follow this highway from this state to this state, there's 7, 8 people in this trail, in this highway, you know, we may have a serial killer here. We may have somebody who's hitting truck stops in this area. May have somebody who's targeting sex workers in this area, and start to put those things together to make their investigation. I mean, I don't think it needs to be easier for them, but at least maybe it'll help them pick up patterns and notice things that can get these people taken off the streets quicker, um, and to encourage them to push funding in that direction because it's so incredibly needed. So that, instead of an event this year, was my and our contribution to TDOR and Trans Awareness Week. Like the opportunity that maybe this is something that all of us can utilize to make this change and turn this corner so that next year we don't have so many names to announce.
Yeah, this is dope. It's a dope tool, and also, you want to tell them about the day that they can come and learn more about it.
Yes. So the first day of Trans Awareness Week is the 13th. We're actually going to do a live on the IG and the Blackout Facebook page. So you can go to either one and it'll just pop up as a live and you can watch and learn more about it. I'm going to talk about the history, talk about how you can use it, where you can use it, all of the things, because we just want people to use it. Like, I know a lot of things people are like super protective of, like, I thought of it, or I did it, or this is mine, or look at, you know, this thing that we found. This is not that. Like, what we want is to spread the word, because every single organization, every single activist out there, we want them using this tool because it can help you. It can help you on a national scale, but it can also help you locally. So all we want to do is get the word out. So if you see this thing, please go on our page and start sharing all the videos that we're posting. So people, like I said, it's 100% free. You don't got to register. You don't have to leave your information. Just go in there and use it. So maybe we can start, you know, making a change. 7 o'clock on the 13th, we are going to be talking. Myself, and E.L. Winston are going to be talking about the tool and what it's used for and what it can be, what you can do with it, and the technology behind it. Because I am not the tech person, but Winston knows all those techy things, and so he's going to talk about a little bit about the technology too.
And I just think about, as far as saving lives, like how many people can use this as a resource for funding for cultural competency in the areas,
Heck yeah.
um, especially cultural competency, as far as just teaching stuff in schools. You know, I think a lot of stuff that happens, a lot of the murders that happen, is because people are ignorant, um, to trans and non-binary identities.
Yep.
You know, and a lot of people are fearful of the things that they're ignorant to. And, you know, education is the best way to inform people. You know, you need to normalize it, you need to have education around it. And I think this tool will be able to pinpoint the areas that need the most education,
No,
you know.
absolutely. And I think one of the dopest things about it, like right underneath the tool itself on our website, is built in a place where people can send more information in. So, like I said, so many people are misgendered. Like the stories don't even hit the news. Like we don't have any idea about them around the country. This is something that everybody in the community can contribute to. If you knew one of these people and you want to tell a story about them, like you could send that in and we can link it to their profile. So this person isn't just, I'll never forget, Mel Groves was one of the families of someone who was killed that I got to work with. And his friend, he called him his brother. He had told me after when we met that he was number 39 that year. He was the 39th person to be killed. I think it was 2021. And he told me that it was like really painful for him to every time he looked at the news and they talked about the story, they called him 39. And um, he wasn't just 39. Like he was a brother, he was an uncle, he was a friend, he was a boyfriend, he was a whatever, all of these things. But he had gotten reduced to 39. Even within our own community, activist communities, like we think that we're doing the right thing by, you know, getting these stories out, but we're talking about, well, now this is the 39th, now this is the 40th, now this is the 35th. But these people are people who lived and breathed and had feelings and heartbreaks and relationships and people that love them, and they aren't just numbers. And so the idea that, you know, you can pop up and not just see a dot and a name, but like a story, and who this person is, I think is so incredibly important because nobody is just 39. And so, you know, the fact that the community can continue to contribute to the information that is on this index of people, I think is humongous because we don't want anybody to ever just be reduced to a number or the thing that happened to them one day when their lives were built of, you know, 1,000 different things on a million different days. And so, like, the community can be a part of making this thing not just a list, but a living, breathing representation of who all of these, because there's so many people of all of who these people are. That's why, like, a lot of the people that are on our list aren't even on the HRC list because, like, there's people that I know personally. There's somebody recently in Rochester who was on the stroll and was killed. They haven't made our HRC's list yet, but they were hit by a car. That's an act of violence. They were murdered, and they deserve to be recognized also. There's a family that I'm super close to, Devon's, from Rochester. He was hit by a drunk driver. They're on our list because he deserves to be recognized and his name said, and people count him amongst the number also. So the fact that the more people that are part of this thing and know that it exists and can contribute, and to like stories that we don't even know about yet, like names and stories of people that just have not been told at all. The fact that there's an opportunity for you to add that information in, you can attach pictures to it, you can send us stories, you can send us news links so we know who the person is. And all of those things are things that can continue to get better and deeper and richer over time because people like you watching this, you know, send us information that nobody else knew before. And these people deserve to be more than just a name in a book. Like, you know, we can humanize these stories, and unfortunately it takes people hearing real stories to understand that every single person matters and that this shouldn't have happened to them. So I hate that we even have to go through all that to humanize people because it should be an automatic, but unfortunately it's not. And so this is another way to bring some things that people can understand and attach themselves to and see themselves in to hopefully help them understand how much it matters.
And just one quick question.
Hmm.
So how far back right now does it currently go? To what year?
So it starts in 2018.
Okay.
2018 to present, there's about 300 people on there. There are records prior to 2018. I think that HRC started tabulating stories in 2014. But back then, unfortunately, like the media did such a poor job carrying those stories or getting information. A lot of those, there's not pictures, there's not good information. It's only dead names. And so we wanted to start at a point where at least the trans experience was being recognized on somewhat of a more compassionate and appropriate level. So that's why we started with 2018, because that's when the media somewhat started turning the corner a little bit and being more respectful with their journalism. So we started in 2018. Now, mind you, the more information we get, we can add back and we can add forward, which is, like I said, why the tool is so dope, because it's a living, breathing thing. It can get as deep as we want it to. The next level of things that they're adding on, that the builders are adding on for me, is I've given them the information about where anti-trans legislation and affirmative legislation is in the country, so that you'll be able to add that layer, so that click on the box and add that layer to the map so you can see the correlation between states where they have anti-legislation and states where they have protective legislation, and how that changes what's happening to people, because that language that politicians are using change affects the behavior of people in those areas. And so that'll be yet another layer. You can layer over that thing so you have even more things to talk about when you go to your state capitol, when you're talking on lobby days, when you're talking in the media. And even that's one thing we didn't talk about. This is even an awesome resource for media agencies, because they can go in there and get correct information in their reporting. Because, you know, a lot of times the media sources be loud and wrong. And so this is also a way to show them why it's so important. Anytime there's a person that I get contacted about that was killed and they're being misgendered in the media, I have a press release that I send to the media agencies in that area that say, you know, stop doing that. This is why. This is why it matters how you report. This is the human reason, familial and human reason why it matters how you report. But this is also the data collection reason why it matters how you report, because agencies like HRC are collecting this information, and it makes a difference to the conversations that people are having around it. And so this is another thing that you can direct media to say, this is exactly why you need to not be misgendering folks, because these are the kind of things that collect that information to try to make a difference. And so you need to understand and do your journalistic work and your reporting in an appropriate way. And this is why. So, like I said, our hope is this just spreads far and wide. Nobody's getting rich off of this. Nobody's making any money off of it. The only people that are getting paid are these wonderful people that I harass from morning, noon, and night to perfect this thing that they're building for us. It's just about making sure that it's available to every single person or organization that could ever need to use it in order to be able to help them do their job easier and faster and better and more efficiently and more complete.
And it's dope. So look out for that live that we're gonna be having, so you can learn more about it and start using it.
And I'm about to put the address of it in the chat also, so people can find it. It was so dope. I was on the computer earlier this morning, and someone had actually made a whole video about it that they were sharing about like the resource and how it works and why they should use it and all of the things. So that made me very excited, because that means the word is starting to get out.
Yeah, I think the word is going to spread about it fast. It's gonna get out, and I'm hoping that by next year, T-Door, everybody is using it. And it's changing, helping to change like legislation and also people's lives. So.
Then I have to thank you and Winston so much, because you don't understand. I be texting these individuals at 3 o'clock in the morning, like, go look at it and tell me what you think. And what about this? And what about this thing? See, help me name it, like all of the things. So thank y'all for, riding with me on my flights of fancy, because when I get focused on something, that is all I see. So thank you. I appreciate you both.
Well, I'm sure I don't have to speak for Winston, but I'm sure he would also just say, it's an honor to be a part of something, that's bigger than yourself, and something that can help save lives. And I'm sure he would say the same thing. So.
He sent me something sweet. I started crying. I'm like, Lord Jesus, okay. So I'm gonna send it out today. I'm like, thank you. All right, let's talk about this vote.
Vote.
Okay, so I did want to tell you that somebody who I know, and I don't know them super well, but they hear me talking about the election all the time, and they had inboxed me like, I don't understand. I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. I don't know what, I've never voted before. I don't know what this early voting thing is about. Like, where am I supposed to go? Like, do I just go to some random place that says that you can vote there? Like, how does this work? And I think that I sometimes forget that people really literally do not know what they're supposed to do, and that is really prohibitive. Like, if you don't understand what you're supposed to do, you don't go because you don't know. So that's okay. If you have no idea what's going on, how it works, ask somebody. I was more than happy to answer each and every, and I'm one of the first people to be annoyed by people who don't know what they're talking about or don't know what's going on, but not in this case. Ask somebody who you know has voted or has voted before, so they can just kind of get you familiar with the process. Like, there's nothing wrong with never having done it before and wanting to do it this year. Ask somebody. And if you're not comfortable asking somebody, there's a site called vote411.org. Literally just vote411.org. You can put in your address. It'll tell you if you're registered. It'll tell you where you're registered. It'll tell you the hours of the places you can go to vote. It will pull up your exact ballot and show you exactly who's on it. You can then click on the ballot on each of the people running, and it'll tell you the kind of things that they believe, what party they belong to, what their campaign has been running on, what they're talking about, how they voted in the past. Everybody's ballot this year has a bunch of amendments for different things. Down here in Florida, they're voting on abortion rights. They're voting on legalizing marijuana, and then a bunch of like just city charter things and whatever. But it will break down each one of those amendments for you. Also, it's important to remember that they go back and forth for months debating about the language that they put in those amendments to make them as confusing as possible so that folks vote for the wrong thing by accident. So sites like that will break down exactly what it means. Like if I vote yes, it means I'm saying I'm picking this. If I vote no, it means I am picking this. And so you can go on those sites and it'll literally give you all the information you need for your specific place because different people have different things on their ballots. So if you call me and you're in Alabama and I'm in Florida, our ballots could say completely different things. Obviously, the presidential election will be on there and that will be the same. But a lot of the things you're voting for are for state, they are for city, they are for county, they are for town. And so you may have completely different things on your ballot. But something like that, you can literally pull it up, take as much time as you need to read through it, take notes. Oh, I like this person, I like that person. I think I like this idea, this ballot amendment is something I feel like I can support. You can have yourself a little cheat sheet to figure out exactly what you want to do and who you want to vote for. To get yourself familiar because there's nothing wrong with not knowing how to do it, but take the initiative to find out how to do it. Don't just not go because this not voting in this election just isn't an option.
And one thing I will say is with working with youth, um, so I work with kids up to age 17, sometimes 18, and a lot of them, this is their first year that they're going into voting. Um, and a lot of people that I'm like, hey, are you registered? So I've been asking people for like the last 3, 4 months.
Right.
I know they probably tired of me every time, you know, they come in for services and before they leave, I'm like,
So
so are you registered to vote?
right.
But one thing I realized was a lot of kids thought that once they turned 18, they were automatically registered to vote. So I really had to talk to some of them and be like, no, that's not how it works. Like you have to actually register, you know. And now it's faster. They got QR codes. Pull out your phone right now. We can
Word.
do it right now. It's gonna take you a couple minutes, but we can get it done. And then I had a lot of questions about like I'm 17 now, but I turned 18 November 1st. I turned 18 October 30th. I turned 18,
Yep, all
you
you
know,
early Scorpios, y'all still better be in the building.
yeah, can I register early to vote? And yes, you could have registered early to vote. I told them, oh yeah, as long as your birthday is before November 5th, you can register to vote now. Um, so that was like the most of the questions that I got was how do I register to vote? Um, I thought I don't know if I'm registered to vote. I thought I'm automatically registered to vote. And, literally it took like 5 minutes because I'm like, oh, guess what? I got a QR code for you here. Let's scan this right now so we
Yep.
can make sure you registered to vote. And there's no crime against registering twice. So
No.
if you don't know and you don't want to take the time to look it up, just do it again.
And it's great to register, but you also got to show up. Like
Right.
being registered is
Yes.
fab,
It's
but you
only
also
half the problem.
it's
Half.
only half the problem. Like you have to get there and do it. And again, it's not like the standardized test at school. Like you don't have to fill in every bubble. So if for some reason you feel like you know something about one race and not the other, and so you choose not to vote on that one, that's okay. You do not have to vote along party lines. You can vote for anybody you feel like. Nobody sees what's on your vote or on your ballot. Like nobody knows. So whether your parents, your spouse, your next door neighbor, your whatever, you're voting differently from them, that's okay. Nobody gonna know. But it's important that you do it. And there has been a sentiment, I feel like, for a lot of years that people feel like their vote doesn't matter. But one, people wouldn't be trying to convince you that your vote didn't matter unless it did. If your vote didn't matter, they wouldn't care if you showed up or not. They wouldn't have to tell you not to come because if your vote doesn't. Obviously, if they're trying to tell you not to come, it's for a reason. Second of all, I think that we have this like instant gratification thing in our country where you feel like I voted for somebody, they didn't win, so my vote didn't count or this doesn't work. But everybody has to vote and everybody gets counted. Like people start getting into this whole thing about like, well, it's an electoral college, so it doesn't matter how I vote. Most of y'all don't even know what the electoral college does or what it means. So like, let's not make that a reason as to why you aren't voting. Unless you can explain to me in an essay what that has to do with voting, I don't want to hear that that's a reason why you're not voting. That's garbage. Yes, it does have technicalities that change how the votes get counted, but that still doesn't mean that your vote doesn't count. Right now, I live in Florida. Florida is a very red Republican state. However, all of a sudden this year, it could be a swing state again. There's a distinct possibility that because of all of the things that have been happening and all of the very divisive and the very differing opinions of a Republican and Democrats at this point, the differences between the Kamalas and the Trumps and the rhetoric, it's a distinct possibility that Florida could all of a sudden swing blue. It could tip Democrat, which is huge. And the reason why that could be a thing is because people are showing up and they're voting. In my county, which happens to be very, very Democratic, even though it's in Florida, majority Democratic, very LGBTQ friendly city, probably the most LGBTQ friendly city in Florida that I've ever encountered. They said, I heard a thing from the voter people the other day that was the majority of voters in this county are 60 and older, cisgender white men. So that means all of the things that are being decided in this county, in this city, are decided by old cisgender white men. That is definitely not the demographics of the county in which I live. That means that like middle-aged folks, grown people with little kids, working folks, that's not them. And that's the majority of this city. Like the reason why things look the way they look is because we don't show up. And you cannot continuously complain for another 4 years about what your life is like if you don't show up. Because I think that there's like a psychological thing that happens when you let your voice be heard, when you let your voice be counted, that win or lose, that does something. If it doesn't do something to the country, it does something internally to you. Understand that that is a right that you have that people can take away from you. P.S. Any right that you have in this country can be taken away from you. That is a right that we have where you close that, that voting booth or whatever, your vote matters just as much as every single other person in this country. And know that and step into that and understand that you have the power to make things different. One person doesn't, but 1,000 people that look and vote and live like you absolutely matters. And we have this type of country where you elect representatives, right? And then they show up for you and they vote for a lot of things. But we put those people in office. Like, even though it gets kind of complicated how presidential candidates get elected, like state and federal candidates get elected, the people that get elected in your city, your town, they win and lose by 1, 2, 5, 100, 200 votes. Like, literally, if you brought all of your friends with you to vote, that could literally change who wins in your city. Like, it could just, like, all the people you invited to your birthday party, everybody who said happy birthday to you on Facebook last year, like, that many people could change completely what your representation looks like where you live. And so even if for whatever reasons you don't choose to vote for president, although this is a very important one and I don't know why you wouldn't, even if you didn't, sometimes the local races are even more important than the federal races because that decides who the judges are, who's in and out of jail and in and out of prison and locally for you. School board. You don't got kids, you don't pay attention to school board. But guess what? Nowadays, the easiest way to get into higher office is to hop on the school board first because it's the thing that nobody pays attention to. So they get on the school board. That's where all the Mothers of Liberty came in. That's why books are getting banned. That's why things like Don't Say Gay happen because those things are decided by the school board. Those people get in office there for a couple of years, and all of a sudden they're hopping to city council, and they're hopping to county offices, and they're hopping to state offices, and then they're in the Congress. These people that have been cooked up with all their KKK rhetoric start on school board. So that's why, even if for whatever reason you have reasons to not want to support a presidential candidate, show up at least for your local races, because they will make all the difference. Like, there's a thing that they always used to say, that it doesn't matter who's president in the hood. Like, the hood is always the same. The hood ain't always going to be the same based on who your local representation is. It will completely change what your life looks like tomorrow. Like, those people don't have to wait till January to take office. A lot of them take office like a few weeks after the election. So those type of things you have a say in, and your vote so matters. Like, literally, it could be 10, 15, 20, 75 people that decide those races. Be one of them.
And this is our last show before election day. So
Tuesday.
check out the resources. I did post 411.org in there
Good.
too. But yeah, definitely check out the resources. There's a lot of other organizations as well that have like cheat sheet lists
Yep.
of people who are pro-queer, pro-LGBTQ, pro-trans that are going to be on the ballot. So, if you don't know who to vote for, check out one of those cheat sheets and
I know
what the
the
people
equality.
stand
I know
for.
it. I know HRC has a whole listing. The HRC national website has a listing of all the LGBTQ candidates. I know that all the equality, like every state has an equality Florida, an equality New York, an equality North Carolina, whatever. They have cheat sheet resources. I think I just saw Wave, NGMT, and New Pride Agenda put out a New York State cheat sheet voter thing. Like, it's out there. The information is out there. You just got to go find it.
Yeah, so definitely you can take your cheat sheet in there. There's nobody in there talking about this is one test that you can cheat on.
It is.
So
I want to say in Florida, they tell you can't take your ballot in, but you can absolutely take a sheet of paper that says who you picking.
right.
Oh,
Right.
Oh, that's another important point. Okay, so I know a lot of people that are of the trans experience get real nervous about voting because it has to do with like identification and what your gender marker is on your ID and all of those things. So just know they legally cannot turn you away to vote. They cannot. No matter what doesn't match up, what they see, what they think, how they feel, they absolutely cannot turn you away from voting. The worst that will happen is that they give you like a special kind of ballot that's like goes in the we're not sure if this is allowed ballot. Like, if they have a hard time identifying you, if you don't have your license, or your license doesn't match up to your address, or whatever reason they give you for why there might be a problem with your identification, they have contingency ballots, and they let you fill those out, and those get counted. The most that will happen is they go into the pile, like the mail-in votes or whatever, that have to go through like a little bit tighter scrutiny process through their back channels of their own. But don't ever let anybody turn you away. They will vote, go there, vote, and then they will figure out later whether you're voting where you're supposed to, you're in the right district, you're voting under the correct name, whatever. But don't let anybody turn you away, because they legally cannot. You vote, tell them you want a contingency ballot, they have to accept it, and then they'll put it through the process later to make sure that it's allowed to be counted.
And let me just say, as a trans person, I do know that, it can be a lot of triggering things around voting if you haven't changed your name or your gender marker. I know it can be a very triggering experience for you, and that's valid. But I like to say to most people that, if you haven't changed your name or your gender marker yet, and you don't want to vote, you may never get to change your name and your gender marker if you do not vote. That is that is what I tell most people, because I do know that it is triggering to have to look at your dead name or your legal name or whatever, or to have somebody question you when you go to the polls, or whatever the case may be that might trigger you. But this is such an important election that if you do not vote, that you may never be able to legally change those documents wherever you live at. So this is not just New York State. This is everywhere. You may never be able to see the name that you want to see on your legal documents. Because of the legal, because of where they live at, right? But if you want that change, you have to vote. You have to, or you may never have that ever, you know. So that's just my
And I
little
did,
piece.
and I beg y'all to start paying attention. Like there are people that I know that are leaders in the community, even in the trans community, and like they're surprised and on Facebook talking about how they went to the pharmacy and couldn't get their medication, how their medical health provider all of a sudden can't see them anymore, give them services. And these are people that are in leadership in the community that I would expect to understand what's going on in the world. Now, it always shocks me when people are like, "Oh, I don't get into politics. I don't pay attention to that." You better, you better, because it's not like they're voting on like stop signs and turning signals anymore. Like these are decisions that can affect if you're getting health care, how you're getting health care, when you can get health care, if you are even acknowledged as a human in this society at this point. Like the decisions that are being made right now and the people that are in charge of making them will truly change the way each of us, especially in our community, live and are able to experience the world. Like it's huge, the important right now. Like you gotta tune in. You gotta tap in. You gotta tap in. And if you are truly just if there's just too much of a trigger for you to go in live to these different to polling places, like I get it. So next time look into mail-in votes. Like if it's that difficult for you, like it's too late for this one, but look into mail-in voting so you at least can send your stuff in and be able to still let your voice be heard without having to physically go into place. Like there are ways to get around those type of experiences because I understand how incredibly upsetting and soul shattering they can be. So don't just decide that it's like a thing that you can't do. Like look into what the alternatives are to make sure that you give yourself every opportunity to be a part of the process and stand up for your right to live and love and exist and get care and all of the things.
And for me, it's also to be able to move around the United States freely. Um, I think a lot of people don't realize how, as a black person and as a black trans person, how incredibly hard it is to find places to like me. Okay, so I live in New York State right now, but who's to say I always want to live in New York State? I love New York State. Don't get me wrong, but and I had this conversation with my sister, and I don't think she totally understood until I explained it to her like this. So I'm like thinking about moving. I'm not sure where I want to move to, and she's like, "Oh, you can move pretty much anywhere." And I'm like, "Actually, I can't, and here's why." And I'm like, in some places, I'm not considered a human being. So I can't just move anywhere. I have to
Right.
worry about, will I be able to get my medication? Will I be able to get care from a doctor? Am I moving to a transphobic state? And if I move into a place that happens to be trans friendly, I still have to think about how racially friendly they are. So I mean, and I don't think like for a lot of people, it's like, oh, I want to move. Let me just move. And a lot of people have that freedom right now to just move if they're financially able to just move to a place. Hey, I like warm weather. Let me just move to the south. Hey, I like,
Right.
but for trans people, especially black and brown trans people, we don't have that luxury to just be able to move wherever we want to freely, because there is so much, anti-trans legislation in different states. So, I mean,
And even
this is also,
just traveling, like say you're not moving, say you just want to take a trip somewhere, like that, that's
yeah, say
not
I want to
even
take a trip somewhere and I happen to, have an accident or get into a car crash and, I have to worry about in an anti-trans state, and
Or
there's a
go through an
doctor.
airport.
Oh, I go through airports all the time. Same thing every time. Uh, I don't really. Airports don't really bother me anymore. I've been through so many of them. I already know I'm about to light up like a Christmas
Invest
tree.
in pre-check. That's one thing my ex convinced me that it was a thing to do. Invest in pre-check so you just go right in through that thing and you don't have
No,
to.
no. I specifically don't invest in pre-check because I would like the officers to get some practice on handling trans
Well,
people.
well, everybody isn't built like that necessarily. So if
I
you're not ready for
understand that,
if you aren't
which
ready
is
for
why
that,
I do it.
yeah,
Which is
no,
why
I get it.
I do it because I'm fine with. I'm not uncomfortable with. I
Educating
find that it
folks.
makes the officers more uncomfortable than it does me, but they need that training.
They do.
So let's go. Let's do this search right here, right now. I'm already knowing what you about to tell me. I already know where I lit up at. It's fine.
That's the thing.
So yeah, um, it's a thing. But before I even go through, I already know.
Yeah.
So I do it to as a learning experience for the officers, not myself.
Oh, and one thing I will say is I feel like, which is a lot, I think, to say in Florida, I've seen more queer folks working the polls this year than I have ever, which is freaking dope. Like, extra dope. And so, hopefully, if you have anxiety, you will run into, and that's in Florida. So, if they're in Florida, that means I know that they're more so in other states. But if that's anxiety you have, hopefully you run into some folks that will make the experience as comfortable for you as possible.
Yes. I didn't sign up to work the polls this year,
I
but
didn't
maybe
either. I
maybe
usually
they
do
let me
because it's fair.
volunteer last minute. I do have this last volunteer day left at work, so maybe they'll let me use it for that.
Yeah.
Um, but I wouldn't mind, I think it would be nice to see more community and I think some people in community know me, so it might be nice for them to have a
Was that your
friendly face
admission that
at
people
the
know who
poll.
you are? Oh,
Some people, PTA moms.
your face.
PTA moms, they know my face.
Mm-hmm.
I go to the school,
Mm-hmm.
wave at the kids.
Okay, so voting. Anything else you need to talk about?
Um, let me see. We already said don't let anybody stop you from voting. If
Mm-hmm.
it does happen to be past 9 o'clock, stay in line because they still
Yes.
won't
Good
let
point.
you vote.
Good point.
Stay in line. Um,
Oh,
all,
is early voting's over now, right? Is early voting
no
stopped?
early voting stops Monday.
Okay, so early voting. Understand that the process with early voting and regular voting is different. So you can look on those same like Vote 411 sites or your local election board of elections website to get the information because most places for early voting there's like 5 or 10 or whatever specific places where you can early vote. All you got to take is your ID still. They just look at stuff, match numbers, of that, make sure your ballot matches your name, matches your address, etc., etc. And you got to go to those 5 places. If you wait until election day, everybody has a designated uh, polling place that is probably like in your neighborhood ish, that's closer to you. There may be lines. Wait in the line. Um, and you can find all that information on the site as well. That you can go in and figure out exactly where your designated polling place. If you wait until Tuesday and you go, all you need is ID. Um, they will ask you for your ID. They will usually confirm your address, um, and sometimes match your signature, the signature from your voter ID card to the signature that they have on the paper, and that should be about it. Um, what else about the actual day of? Your employer is required by law to give you time off to go vote. So if you are working a job and your job shift is during voting hours and you say you have to go vote, they have to legally let you go for, I don't know, 30 minutes or whatever it is to be able to go vote.
Yep.
But they also open super early. Like I want to say they open at like 7 a.m. and they go to like 9. So you might be able to go before work or after work or whatever. But make sure you check the times for your voting place on all of those same places we keep mentioning, so you know exactly when they're open, so you know when the best time is for you to get there. And if you got kids, take your kids with you. Let them see you vote so they understand how important it is when it's their time.
Mm-hmm.
And take your great I vote selfie with your I voted sticker and post it. Because the more of us that show that we did that, the more it will encourage other people who look like us and live like us to do the same thing. Because for some reason, that matters to people. So vote and be loud and proud about it and share with your community so that, you know, somebody sees you and it's like, oh, someone's voted. Let me get up here and go to this place and see these people and do my thing. It's important. It matters. That's why you'll see on our page that we're sharing every single one of our Blackout writers with the community on TikTok, on Instagram, on Facebook, because it's important for people to see that we voted. It matters. And show your community of friends and folks that you voted to.
I think one of my favorite memes that I've seen this election was it was just a meme that said, "Oh, I thought somebody who wasn't registered to vote said something."
About that.
I feel like that was my favorite memes for October.
I could see it. I could see that on the shirt for you.
I
I
could
could see it.
definitely I'll put that on the shirt.
I could
I'm
see that
I'm
on the
gonna
shirt for
put
you.
I'm gonna put oh, I thought somebody who didn't vote said something. That's
Mhm.
gonna be mine.
Mhm.
My
I,
thing is I don't know how these because the election is on the 5th, and I'm really not sure how these Thanksgiving dinners about to be going, depending on who wins.
it's gonna be
Yeah,
interesting. It's
it's,
gonna
it's,
be interesting. I'm
it's
sure some people
definitely
gonna have.
gonna be
I'm hoping
crazy.
that people's last Thanksgiving dinner was interesting when people told their folks about themselves when they were talking about this upcoming race. I hope y'all been having those conversations. I'm gonna bring my mug with me. You see my mug?
We're not going back. Nope. So, oh, wait. I got my sign, right? This is the sign. I was just cleaning out my car, so I keep this one in my
Mm.
car, right? Because lately I've been noticing that, like, as I'm driving, um, I'll be seeing these people with like kids talking with these honk if you voting no to Prop 1. Go outside with kids and stuff, and I just like to hold this out the window as I pass them, because I'm not honking for y'all, but I'll put this up, you know.
Yeah, I have my big Kamala flag hanging in front of my house. And down here, when they first selected her as the candidate, people started getting blue flamingos and put them in their front yard. So I have 2 blue flamingos with beads on in my front yard and my big giant Kamala flag. So we out here representing, because you'll pass a good section of Trump flags. So we figure we'd give them something to get angry about.
Yeah, so I was driving this week, and I think I drove like a little bit outside of Rochester to a little Amish city called Penn
And yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, ooh, it's like trumping out here for real,
Well,
right?
I always tell people they don't understand. Like, there are pockets of blue in New York State, like Buffalo, like inner city Buffalo, Syracuse, Rochester, Albany. But outside of those little dots in New York City, if New York City ever got cut off of New York in terms of like voting, New York would be Alabama. Because outside of those dots of blue, it is very, 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 very red in that big whole rest of the state.
Yeah,
Even
so
right
I
outside of Buffalo, right outside of like Amherst, woo, it's
Lockport.
very red. Lockport, very red.
But but I was happy to see, as I was driving through, like there were some Kamala signs up. So
Okay.
I was like, oh, okay, it's cool. So I seen this one house stood out in particular because I'm like driving and I'm like, let me see, Trump, Trump, Trump. So it was like one neighbor that was like on this street full of Trumpers, and they had like three Kamala signs in their yard, and I'm like, that would be me if I lived out here. Oh, my neighbors would hate me because I
Nigga.
would get a big Kamala. You know how you go to like T-Mobile and you see them big things that's like, baby, I have one of them and Kamala
One of
Harris
those.
in my front yard like this, and I'm talking about one as big as my house, just like waving. You have
I
all
said
these
I was
Trump
I said
joints.
I was gonna get pumpkins and do FUCK Trump in pumpkins in my front yard for Halloween, but I didn't do it. But I was gonna do it.
Ooh, dang, I got some leftover pumpkins. That's a good idea.
I swear to God, I was
Let me
gonna put it up.
see if I can
I
put
might
that
do it today.
together.
If it's go left, I might do it the day after the election, just to make sure everybody knows how mad I am about it.
Listen, I don't know what the country gonna be like if it goes
Well, you know,
red.
it's crazy. Like, I think that we get lulled into this false sense of security in this country that it really can't go back and it really can get back. When Roe versus Wade, which is the Supreme Court case to end, that gave people the right to women's reproductive health, was shot down, like that was the beginning. Like Trump stacked the Supreme Court with very conservative justices that knocked that down, and it that was the beginning, and it will steadily continue. So Trump back in office means this country will very, very, very much change. I mean, we talk about the things that already happened here, the racism, the homophobia, the transphobia, but we will see a country like we haven't seen in our lifetime. If that happens, and me living down here, I'm like, damn, like I haven't sold my house in New York yet, and I'm like, maybe I need to hold on to my house just in case we gotta run the fuck run away. Like I don't know what these folks down here are gonna do if she wins. I don't know what they're gonna do because they're gonna be big mad. But if she loses, like I don't know what that looks like for down here. I haven't been in this state during the Trump presidency. Like a DeSantis governorship was enough, but I haven't been down here during a Trump presidency. So I don't know. I don't know what's gonna happen. But that's why it's just so incredibly imperative for people to show up. They need to get the governor in Texas out. DeSantis is already on his way out. He lost the presidential campaign and he has reached his term limits for governor, thank God, in Florida. So he just gotta wait out his time and then he's gonna be on his way out. But if we don't do what we gotta do and show up and show out with this election, I don't know what this country looks like in January. I don't know. It's scary. But people
And
need to understand just how important it is.
people need to remember to flip the ballot.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes,
You want to talk
because I
about that at all?
you said what?
You want to talk about Prop 1 at all?
So Prop One is the equality ballot. So it is gonna equal rights for everybody is on the line. And I mean, we like to call it like the queer vote because it affects the LGBT community so much, but it also affects like women's rights, disability rights, black and brown rights, of course. I mean, it just affects so many of us that people have to. I can't tell you to vote yes for Prop One legally, but I can guarantee you that Prop One affects someone that you love and care about. Everybody has a mother, a sister, an aunt, a LGBTQ family member, a family member with some type of disability,
An
um,
elder,
and
an elder.
elder care. I mean, for me, elder care is big. It's for me, elder care and youth care are like my biggest things that I advocate for. Just because one, I work with youth, and two, I used to be a CNA. So
I
I
didn't know
know,
that.
no, yes. so I was a CNA for many years. I really enjoyed it. I don't even know if I would be in like the same type of advocacy work I'm in now if I would have never stopped being a CNA. So I would probably be more senior LGBTQ healthcare. Um, but yeah, so I was CNA for many years. Got to take care of some amazing people. I worked at a lot of nursing homes. I was actually traveling. I used to travel from nursing home to nursing home. Um, so I got to meet a lot of elders. I actually got to meet a lot of LGBTQ elders who technically had to go back into the closet because they were in nursing homes. Um, so it was always a little disheartening for me to well it was good for me to be able to take care of these people just because I know for a lot of elders they help shape the country and the laws for the amount of freedoms that we do have now. So I'm always like without our elders in the community, where will we be? Which is why I'm very big on like elder care because
That's
like I said,
interesting. I used to work with I was a recreation director for assisted living and memory care units. So I worked with a lot of patients with dementia. Prior to me working with at-risk youth, that was like my thing for quite a few years. And that was why it was super interesting. The first legislative work that I did was around the LGBTQ nursing home rights legislation that was up for vote, that they were trying to get the bill into passed when I first started in advocacy.
yeah, so I'm really big on like elder care, especially for our community. I hope to one day have elder care services in Western New York. That's like
Okay.
a big dream of mine.
Did
Because
Trillium ever open that spot in Rochester? Do you know? Did they ever open their LGBTQ other building thing that they were working on?
um I'm not sure. I haven't heard anything
I'm
about
gonna have to
any
look it
type
up. They
of
were supposed to be developing it. I had to work with when I was running Out Alliance. I worked with the folks at Trillium that were supposed to be putting it together. I wonder if it ever happened. I have to look it up.
yeah, so yeah, I'm really big on that. Just because a lot of my patients that I had were like it was end of life for them, and I realized that, something just as small as being able to dress how they want to dress, pick out their own clothes.
Well, I mean,
Um,
look at how many partners that have been together for 30 and 40 years that then get separated from their partners because they can't house with them in an assisted living or a nursing home, community where everybody else can live with their partners. Like, how devastating is that?
yeah, so I mean, I seen a lot of that. And I got to take care of some amazing people that were in the community, which was cool. I think they were happy to have met me
That
as an
would be
aide
a
as
great
well.
that would be a great agency to open. All queer providers that worked with seniors that were LGBTQ. That's another thing.
That's a good thing. I mean, it
That's
would be a
another
dope thing.
that's another thing. Like that's a we're always talking about those things for you. That would be a thing.
No, I actually I loved working in the senior community. Just listening to them talk, listening to
Yeah,
their
stories.
story,
Yeah, yeah.
um, life. You learn a lot from people who were here before you. Um, and then I think about like my mentors and stuff that I have now, and what kind of life I want them to be able to live until the end
Right.
of their days. So that's the kind of stuff that I think about. I know
Definitely.
I wouldn't use, but yeah. So yeah, we all have a grandmother. We all had a grandmother. So that equality, flip the ballot, vote yes on Prop 1 is a very important thing. I know I went off into like a little tangent. I do
It's
that
okay.
sometimes. I talk
That
about
is all right.
elders and youth and you know, stuff like that. But yeah, so prop one, vote yes. If you can't remember, I got a sign. Remember this sign.
In Florida, the amendments, it's no, no, yes, yes, no, no.
Right.
No one First Amendment, no two Amendment, yes three, yes four, no five, no six.
See, there we your cheat sheet. You can write that down right now.
No, no, yes, yes, no, no.
Y'all remember that from the fill the bubble in ABCBBC when
That's
your friend
right.
would give you the answers and you'd be like, okay, just memorize.
That's right.
You had to test last
That's right. Write that thing on your arm if you have to. It's okay. Take it back to seventh grade.
right, right. Although I never cheated. I always study for my exams.
I ain't never studied, but I didn't cheat either. I was too scared to cheat.
He's too scared to cheat.
I was too scared to cheat. I was, I was a good kid. Scout
Oh,
Center. Scout Center.
oh,
I just dated the bad kids. I wasn't one of them.
yeah. But no, I pretty much think we covered everything as far as voting goes.
All right, no shade. I want to click it off here then because I want the thing, the message that people take with them today is get to those polls Tuesday. It matters. It matters. Please.
And also, what is it? Is it Uber or Lyft that's doing
Uber.
rides? Okay, so
Free rides.
Uber is also doing rides. So if you need a ride to your polling place, Uber is doing rides to polling places. And I'm sure there's some other I feel
Yeah,
like
if you
everybody should be doing
and
rides. Check out your local churches if they got a bus. See if
and
they got a bus
the
going.
local I don't know about the Republicans, but I know the Democrats, most Democratic offices in your county and your city, there is always one. City, county, town, there's always some sort of Democratic office. They are offering rides to the polling place also.
Hmm. So don't let I ain't got no ride be a reason why you don't go vote.
Mm-mm.
We can't have no excuses this
And y'all
election
take a
as to why.
caravan. Y'all plan it before happy hour. Y'all about to go vote. Somebody pick up everybody and go have drinks. Y'all can get every place else you gotta go. Get there too.
Right, right, definitely. And if you in Western New York and you happen to need a ride and I'm not at work, call me if you got my number. And if you don't, I guess you could Facebook me
There you
for a
go.
ride.
Because even if you can't do it, I'm sure you could probably connect them to somebody that can help them out.
I'm sure I can. I'm sure I can.
Yeah.
Listen, we're trying to get everybody to the polls to vote. You know, and like I said, early voting, you still got a chance for early voting on Monday,
Yep.
but make sure you get there before 9 p.m. on Tuesday.
Right. Because the thing about it is early voting, even though there's a lot of early voters this year, the lines are usually working faster. Like at the early voting places, they might have 12 or 15 people there pushing people through because they know so many people are going to utilize that. But you may be waiting a little bit. So also, if you're going on Tuesday, be prepared to wait for a little while. You might have a polling place where you could just walk right in and out. Typically, when I vote, either when I was voting in New York and when I was voting in Florida, I could just walk in and out of my polling place. Like there just wasn't that many people there. However, some places the lines are long. A lot of people are exercising their vote this year, which is amazing. But go and know that you might, bring a book, charge up your phone and your AirPods because you might be in line for a little bit, but it's still worth it. Wait it out.
And you know what? I noticed when I lived in certain areas, my polling places were more crowded. I felt like the more urban areas I lived in, the more crowded my polling places were.
Yeah.
Um, versus when I had a polling place in like a more suburban area. So
No shock there.
I don't know how we can check into that. How many polling places is this set by like square miles or what?
I think it's how the districting goes.
Mm.
However, there has been a lot of redistricting being done behind the scenes, which is another form of voter suppression because they play with the district lines to make sure that the people are in the places that they want to be to get them to vote the way they want to vote. So like that's yet another reason. This is why I'm saying like if you go someplace and the line is long, wait it out because that's just another setup sometimes to discourage you from staying and going and seeing the lines and turning around and whatever. Don't let that be the reason.
Listen, pull up a map of Buffalo and see what them district lines look like because it looks.
Sure. Well,
Wow.
there was a big thing, a big controversy about how things were getting redistricted in like Western New York and Buffalo, Rochester, whatever. Like that was a big thing. That definitely is why certain election results look the way they look. However, with that being said, it also has to do with who shows up.
Mhm.
So you can redistrict all you want. If the folks come out and are counted, that's still
Right.
all it takes. But they know who comes and who doesn't, or they think they know who's gonna come and who doesn't. So prove them wrong.
And let me just say this before we click off. Everybody has the right to vote for who they choose to vote for, right?
Absolutely.
But, and this is just a personal opinion. So let me just put that disclaimer. This is not a blackout opinion. This is a T. Douglas opinion. Um, so my thing is everybody has the right to vote for who they want to vote for. But when you're writing in a candidate, to me, that is basically taking away from a candidate who could possibly win and change things in government. So, whereas that may be a very great candidate, I'm not saying that it is, I'm not saying that it's not. What I'm saying is, if that candidate had any chance of actually winning, you would not need to write them in. Let's start there.
And
So,
I'm all for people making a statement, like wanting to make a statement, but like this is not the time, this is not the year.
it's just not the time of the year, like she said. But like I said, you have to think about it like this. Yes, you may not like one candidate and you may hate the other one. I'm not going to say which is which, but you figure that out on your own. But what I will say is that no matter which candidate, whether it's the one you don't like or the one that you hate, um, if you write in another candidate, it is going to be taking away from a candidate that could actually win. So that's just my opinion on why I'm not writing in nobody, because you should have did your due diligence as a candidate to be able to create the funding and the votes for yourself that we wouldn't need to write you in. But that's just me. Okay.
No, I think that's fair, and it's something that people need to think about. Like, I've had to have those conversations with even my kid because he's a voting age at this point, and like, I get it. Like, there was a post somebody put up recently that I saw that was like, I hate that these politicians only come around during certain time of year and they all hate us and whatever. And I'm like, that is great. Like, you don't want to invite either one of these candidates to the barbecue. You want to lifelong cancel their invitation to the barbecue. Like, have at it. I think every politician needs to be held accountable for everything that they do and everything that you think by the people that voted for them. So feel free to protest every day during the next 4 years against the person that you voted if they are not voted for, if they are not doing the things that you voted for them for. Like if they are not following through what they said, they're not living up to your expectation and what they promised, by all means hold those people accountable. We have to do that with our politicians. Like they're representing us, they need to hear from us and they need to consult with us and they need to understand us and they need to be doing what they said they're going to be doing. However, with that being said, I will take a candidate that I can't stand who is not invited to the barbecue moving forward, who will keep me alive, who is not, disagreeing with my right to live on this planet or marry the person that I love or ready to deny me medical interventions or rights or health care. or telling me that the people I love and that I know and that are part of my community don't deserve to be here, or are, deporting legal immigrants and
We're
all of
saying
such
that
things.
Puerto Rico is a garbage land and,
Like,
you know,
like
crazy
things like
rhetoric
that.
like that.
Like, there's a big ocean between those positions of somebody who I don't particularly like and don't particularly care for and do not want to come to the barbecue. Like, one of these candidates you may not want to make the potato salad, but the other one, is possibly going to be the
Kill
cause
your
of the end
dog.
of your life. Possibly be the cause of the end of your life. So take that into consideration when casting your vote. Like, you don't have to, unless you yourself run for office, I don't think you'll ever find a politician that believes absolutely everything you believe and that you like 100%. Like, that you agree with absolutely everything they said, everything they did, every policy they have, every position they take. Unless it's you, you probably will not find someone who's exactly aligned to what you believe. But that's not what democracy is. Democracy is picking out of the candidates that are available to you the best choice out of the two that are there to represent you for the next however many years. So just keep in mind that, like, if you're gonna write in somebody, you might as well not even go vote. And if you feel like those two, if you're so undecided at this point, like, first of all, how are you undecided? But if you're undecided, you're undecided. If you're undecided at this point, like, you really need to delve into, like, what these people are saying and doing and what they believe. You need to read things like Project 2025 and understand the ramifications that can have for your life. Like, this is not a game. Like I said, a lot of spaces and places to express what you believe and who you think, and to do things for, like, philosophical reasons. This isn't that election.
And dear black man, I've
I'm gonna put
heard
myself
you all.
on mute. You go ahead.
And dear black men, I've heard you all. No, I won't say all of you, but I've heard a lot of you that are saying that you wouldn't vote for a black woman for president. And it's striking to me that a lot of y'all grew up in single parent households where your black mother ruled the house. Um, which is why I can't understand why you would not be welcoming to a black woman running the country. That's just where I'm at. And I mean, if you didn't read Project 2025, you, you need to start there. You got a couple of days to read it.
Or watch a TikTok video about it.
Watch a
You don't
TikTok.
gotta read it. Like,
Yeah,
watch
I know some of y'all can't,
watch a
but
YouTube video. Whatever you need.
whatever you need to do. But y'all really need to get out of this ideal that you would rather have someone who looks nothing like you, who does not have any of your best interests at the forefront of their mind, versus having a woman who's black running the country. Um, First off, you're still here, so clearly your mother did something right. I'm gonna start there. But no, being honest, I just really need you to have a conversation with yourself and realize, like, what is it about having a black woman in power that makes you so uncomfortable? Like, it's not taken away from your manhood. And if you feel like it is, like, you can still go vote for her and then go to therapy after.
It's still open. It's open Wednesday. It'll be open Wednesday.
It will be. It'll be open on Wednesday. But what I'm saying to you is, like, you need to get over, like, this toxic masculinity that you need, because to me it's a slave syndrome. Um, that's just how I see it. And I'm not saying it's that way for all of y'all, but for the ones who really cannot see having a black woman as a leader of this country, like, you need to look deeper inside yourself to realize, like, what is going on in your head mentally that you're not okay with this, because you should be thrilled. You should be happy. You should be right, right behind her, because you should be letting her lead and you should be right behind her cheering her on.
And
And that's how
you also have to really pay attention. Like, they don't teach this anywhere, first of all. So I'm gonna say that, like, maybe everybody doesn't understand this because they don't teach this. But you also need to understand where like these narratives come from. Like, there are sophisticated like propaganda kind of machines that exist in the world, and that's where like media stories come from. You know, the TikTokers that you see and you follow, the YouTubers that you watch and follow, like, campaigns pay them to say certain stuff because they have large audiences. Like, you gotta be smart enough to look where the messaging that you're hearing is coming from. The idea that a lot of Black men don't support Kamala is something that is contrived, because they actually have said with like exit polling from early voting that a ton of, can you still hear me? Because my AirPod just died. Oh, okay, good. See it across the thing. They have said that one of the strongest groups that's come out in early voting is Black men. A lot of these as they should. A lot of these undecided voters that they keep putting on media cycles, a lot of these pollings that they keep talking about, that the race is so close, the race is so close. A lot of that is media generated because it's like clickbait stuff. Like, they need bigger story. It's a bigger story for them if they're saying that, like, they're finding like the 5 people on planet Earth that don't know who they're voting for, and making that seem like that's like pervasive across the country. All of these stories, like Trump letting out Kodak Black and weird things like that, like, that's because that campaign wants you to be stupid enough that things like pop culture foolishness are enough to sway you from the actual issues of somebody who is telling you that they don't value you as a human. Like, you got to be smarter than that. A lot of the early narratives and rhetoric around, like, oh, well, she's a top cop, she was the attorney general in California, she did this, she did that. Incarceration rates from when she was there were lower than they had been in California in years. She developed all kinds of anti-recidivism programs to get young Black men who were at risk youth that had gotten into the system out of the system. When she ran for attorney general in California, the police union there wouldn't even endorse her because they were so upset about some of the police reform things that she had done. She opted to not prosecute a young man on death row, or to put a young man on death row who had killed a police officer. Like, you may believe any of that is a good thing or a bad thing, but find out the facts for yourself. Don't just follow, like, you know, I feel like a lot of these conversations are like jail talk. Like, you know how like a story is like,
but they are, and like the people that are young in age, that's all they do is watch the TikToks, and that's all. Because when I'm most of the time talking to people, are you voting? That's always there. Well, did you see on TikTok they said that she does this like it's crazy.
if you see a media report, if you hear a story, like, go back to the source. Was this a reputable station that said these things? Was it Fox News that put this out? Was it, you know, like, if you go back, you'll see at the bottom of some of these commercials, like in the corner, it'll be like paid for by Christian nationalists, blah 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 blah, and turns out it's like a hate group. Like, be smart enough to figure out where these narratives came from. Like, do your research, do your due diligence. Like, these YouTubers that are telling you certain things, Google, it will say Trump just paid, you know, blah 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 $1 million. I mean, look at Sexy Red. She took all that man's money and just announced that she was voting for Kamala. She took all Trump's money. Trump paid her all kinds of money to endorse him, to show up at stuff, to whatever. Everybody was like, oh my God, really? And then she just announced that she voted for Kamala because that was a paycheck for her. Like, she got her money and then she voted for the candidate she believed in. So, like, don't run with the narrative you thought she was selling 6 months ago when she was getting a check for it. Understand that even she took that check and then went and voted for who she wanted. Like Amber Rose said you should vote for him. So like that sounds like a good idea. I mean, like you gotta like think about, just gotta think. Use your critical think, all the critical thinking skills. Like now is the time to brush them things off.
I don't even know if they teach critical thinking in school anymore. It's sad, but that's a whole nother topic for a whole nother day
Yeah.
about the school systems and critical thinking and cursive writing and sexual health education. It's mind blowing to me. I don't even know if I would want a kid in school right now.
You just got to do a whole lot of teaching at home too. That's all.
Yeah, I'm become Bill Nye the Science Guy at this point because the way the school systems is going, like, I don't know.
But the sad thing is, it's not just kids. It's grown-ass adults out here that are doing the same thing. So just, like use your common sense. I know common sense is not so common these days, but like use your common sense. Read into the things that you think you're hearing and talking about. Consider the source of the things that you are saying and doing. Like you just, critical thinking skills. It's a beautiful thing. Critical thinking skills. And show up.
Yeah, show up and show out because we need this one.
We need this one. Real bad. Real bad.
And on that note, we're just going to leave you with that, I guess, right?
And my mug.
Get up out of here. Get up out of here.
We'll see you in 2 weeks. We'll hopefully like balloons and champagne that we're popping instead of tea.
Listen, if Trump wins in 2 weeks, we having a party online. I'm telling you, it's gonna be a huge party. I'm probably gonna be drunk. If I'm sorry, if Kamala wins. If Trump wins, I'm still probably gonna be drunk, but
right, in depression though. It's completely
it's gonna be a depression party.
No, I'm telling you, like if we
I'm gonna be the ghost of pride.
Oh yeah, we all gonna be the ghost of pride. But yeah, if we get some good news this week, then we'll be back in 2 weeks popping bottles.
Popping bottles. So for y'all, make sure you go vote. Like I always say, you could have been anywhere in the world, but you're probably watching this replay right now.
We'll take the replay though. Thanks for coming.
We definitely take the replay, and we'll see you in 2 weeks, hopefully in Blue Land.
Say that. All right, y'all. Vote. Post your stickers.
Post your stickers. Yes, I'm gonna post mine.
Bye, y'all. Bye.